بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. My dear brothers and sisters, this is going to be the beginning of a really emotional series, and we're going to be talking about something that actually a lot of us don't like to talk about and we tend to avoid, and we think that it's never going to happen to us. That's al-maut and al-qabr, death and the grave. Because as al-insan, as human beings, we avoid tackling these issues. We like to avoid talking about death, and we like to also avoid thinking about our own death. But my dear brothers and sisters, this series of videos will be quite hard-hitting, and we're going to learn and go through, inshallah ta'ala, the journey of the soul from before death till after death, till the qabr, to the grave, inshallah ta'ala. And we're going to go through this in a little bit of detail so that we can prepare, because we have to prepare for death, my dear brothers and sisters. So this first video, inshallah ta'ala, will think about what is death, what is the soul, and what is this journey that our souls go through our whole entire existence. So from when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us to when we will go to the akhirah, to either the Jannah, inshallah ta'ala, or the Jahannam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, كل نفس ذائقة الموت. So every soul must or will taste al-maut, the death. This is a promise, and we know this. We've seen our loved ones pass away. Where are our ancestors now? They're no longer with us, my dear brothers and sisters. So this is actually a reality. Every single soul will taste death. But what about the soul? What is it? For us as Muslims, it's part of al-ghaib. It's part of the unseen. So we can see and feel that we've got a soul, but we don't really know about it. But what about for medical science, for example? So traditionally, actually, science has really dismissed the concept of the soul as just being something for people who have religious belief. But in recent decades, biocentrism and other scientific theories have actually started to challenge this old physico-chemical paradigm, this normal, to ask and question, is there actually a soul, or something that would resemble what religious beliefs believe in as a soul? So many will infer or think about its existence, the existence of the soul, without any scientific analysis or any kind of scientific reflection. In fact, when we look at birth and death, and for example, when we are dreaming or when we are unconscious, and even the things that that people experience all the time, such as out-of-body experiences, imagination, our memory, where we can almost spiritually take ourselves to somewhere else. When we're having khushu' during the prayer, you can almost not be present in the room because one is concentrating on the salah so much. But this, from a scientific even perspective, suggests that there is an existence of a vital life force, an élan vital, which actually exists independently of the human body. So I'll give you an example. If a person is put in a coma, or if they're in a really deep anesthetic, and the body doesn't have any consciousness whatsoever, even people who've been said to be kind of to have significant brain problems and aren't reactive, even the brain's waves are not reacting to any type of stimulus. But then that person might wake up from the coma or wake up from the deep anesthetic and remember things that happened during their time in a coma, or remember things that happened while they were under this anesthetic. So this is what leads even scientific fields, which originally would have said, well, there's no such thing as a soul, it's just electrical impulses that are keeping the person alive, and when they've gone, then the person's gone. Even now, medical science is starting to try and unravel and to understand the concept of the soul. Actually, recent experiments into what's called the subatomic world suggests that there are other unseen entities that exist and can and do exist. It's just that science has not discovered these things yet. It doesn't mean that the unseen isn't there. It's just that it's not seen yet. But isn't it true that every single human being, regardless of what faith or background they're from, wonder about life after death? Wonder if after death we will meet with lost relatives and loved ones, and what that will look like and what that will be like. And that's what our journey in the next few sessions is going to be about, inshallah ta'ala. What is that journey going to be like from an Islamic perspective? Because in Islam we know that we have al-haq, the truth, in the Quran and in the Sunnah of the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we have a very clear understanding of life after death. But I will ask you, my dear brothers and sisters, are you prepared? Are you prepared for that departure from this dunya? Are you happy with the state you're in? Now, let's now look at two words or two terms that are described in the Quran and in the Hadith literature. The term ruh and nafs. Ruh and nafs. What's the difference between the two of them? So the ruh is the soul when it is separate from the human form. So when it's separate from us. So ruh can be described, for example, as air or wind. We know that it's there, and we can feel it, but we can't see it. We can only see the result of what it does. So you might know it's windy, you can feel the wind on your skin, you can't see it, but you can see the trees moving, and you can feel it on your face, and you can feel it on your hands. Now, Jibreel alayhi salam is referred to as ruh. And in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, we have sent you a ruh. So the ruh is the soul before or after it comes into the human body. So what about the nafs? Now the nafs is the human soul while it's in our body, in life, in the dunya. And nafs can refer to a being with flowing blood. The ulama actually tell us that the nafs is the ruh when it's in the human body, and that it runs through every fibre of our bodies. And that's why we feel so attached when we're conscious and we're awake. We feel so attached to our body, like it could never be detached from something else. Because the ulama describe this as the nafs runs through the body, every single fibre of our bodies until death. Now there are two types of death that are mentioned in the Quranic text. We have the sleep and we have death itself. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Surah 39, Allah takes the souls of the dead and the souls of the living while they sleep. So we've got two things that are pretty much the same, right? The soul is coming out from the human being. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says he keeps hold of those whose death he has written, who he has ordained, and sends the others back until their time is written or appointed. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us there truly are signs in this for those who reflect. ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِلْقَوْمٍ لَا تَفَكَّرُونَ. Indeed, there are signs for us to reflect on. My dear brothers and sisters, often we don't reflect very much, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us constantly in places throughout the Quran that we should be reflecting on his ayat, on his signs, and reflecting on kalam Allah, on the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, especially when it comes to something as important as the fact that we are going to return to him and our soul will definitely be taken. As I'm sitting here today and as you're sitting there right now, our souls will be taken by Malak al-Maut at some point, whether it's now or whether it's tomorrow, or whether it's in 20 years' time. It doesn't matter. It will definitely happen, my brothers and sisters. So we've had a think about the nafs and the ruh. So what about the stages of our lives as human beings? How does that work? And why is it that we can't really envisage or recall or even visualize life outside what we are in now, outside this dunya. That's one of the big tests, right? So because we're believing in something that we don't remember, that we can't foresee, and we're sitting within ourselves right now. So let's scoot back to when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the souls. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the souls, and this is the first stage of ours. And at this point, the soul is ruh. So the ruh is taken, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates it and takes it out from the loins of the Prophet Adam alayhi salam. And this is when we are made to bear witness in our Lord. We don't remember this, but actually we have this inherent ability to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is al-fitrah, the ability or the predisposition that we have within ourselves to believe in Allah. And this is another lecture that I'll be releasing soon, a very interesting lecture on some research I've been doing on the al-fitrah and our genetics as human beings, based on some scientific research that's gone on. Look out for that lecture, inshallah ta'ala. So this is the first stage. Now the second stage is when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes this ruh through the angel and puts the ruh into the fetus, puts the soul into the unborn child when it's tiny inside the womb of your mother. Subhanallah. And then this is the second stage. This is the dunya stage. So second, third stages are the ruh. It's actually inside the human body as we are now in the flesh. Subhanallah. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will cause us to be born into this dunya. And this is the stage that we're sitting in right now. We are nafs. We're sitting inside the human body. The next stage after that is when the nafs comes back out from the body and goes back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is the stage where the soul comes out from the body. We're going to be explaining and talking about that stage in the next lecture, inshallah ta'ala, that follows this one. Then after we have been taken out from our bodies, we are to go through the barzakh or barrier, and we sit in the qabr, the grave, for a specified amount of time that Allah wills, and we don't know how long or how short that time will be, until Yawm al-Qiyamah, until the Day of Judgment, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take the souls out from the qabr, and we will then move on to the next stage of our existence, which will be again back inside the body again, that we will be back inside the body, and then we will move on to the Day of Judgment, which is the pre-ultimate stage of our existence. And then the final stage of our existence after that stage will be the Jannah or the Jahannam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from the Jahannam and enter us into Jannat al-Firdaus, inshallah ta'ala. So, my dear brothers and sisters, next session, be ready. Maybe bring a tissue with you, because it's a difficult session. The next session, inshallah ta'ala, will be talking about the soul and how the soul comes out from the body. What happens to the soul immediately after it comes out the body until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends it back down to the qabr, to the grave. And we're going to think about how can we prepare for this inevitable moment that will definitely happen. How can we prepare for this in the best of ways, inshallah. So jazakumullah khair. So from me, Ustadha Amina Blake, I will see you guys very soon, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.